It's the Soft Issues podcast with Matt, Lee and Ev. This week we talked to Matthew Butt, the head mechanic at Lee Valley Velopark, about his work with Kenyan cyclists at the UCI Championships in Glasgow. We discuss retirement age and winning a championship at 90, and Matt gives us a cheeky little insight into what goes on underneath the velodrome. Stay tuned.
Let's do it.
Is it brewing?
It's brewing, yeah.
It's brewing.
Right.
It's going to be ready in the amount of time I take to crunch this.
All right, we're going to get the intros out of the way.
Let's get the intros out of the way.
We're really bad at introducing guests. So this week we've actually got a guest, which is also amazing. Someone actually wants to be here, which is great. But it's not always like this, Matt.
Okay, cool.
We've got
always.
Yeah. So we've got two Matts here. We've got Matt from Lee Valley Velopark, who is, I don't know, what do? You look after 450 bikes here.
Yeah, so my day job here is as the head mechanic, looking after the hire bikes. Been here since it opens. Yeah, but I also do bits of coaching and stuff on the side as well, so try and get my fingers stuck in everywhere I can.
Nice. So you know all the ins and outs and all the secrets of this place. Then.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the ins and outs of the Veloce 10-speed flat bar.
Yeah, which we absolutely love.
Yeah,
nothing bad to say about that.
No, there's probably a very good story behind that, isn't there? But
I think, yeah, so the group sets we've got on the bikes, I think it's all because one of the directors at the time when we opened, he had Campagnolo. So of course we've got Campagnolo, and he loved it, and that's why we've got it.
Campag. Did Campag even make a flat bar group set?
They do the flat bar levers, yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, for the Veloce. Yeah, so that's why we've got half the bikes. You can't get hold of it anymore.
Oh, okay.
But I think that's the same.
Literally.
Literally can't get hold of it.
Are there any secret underground passages anywhere?
Have you been under the track?
No.
It's like a whole different world under there.
Wow.
Have you guys?
Yeah. Oh, you showed me a picture.
Yeah,
which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, have a little visit down there, because some velodromes you can't get under there at all. I was at the track in Turkmenistan trying to get under it, and it was like, no, you can't. The track is built into it. Whereas here, yeah, you can walk around. It's like there's a whole.
Is it like inside a piano or something?
Yeah, just like that actually. Okay. Yeah.
just crawl into a piano.
I'd imagine if you were to compare a photo of the inside of a piano and then the inside of the velodrome and be like, which one's which, you probably wouldn't be able to tell.
Wouldn't it be more like the inside of a cello or something, right?
I was just saying, you ever seen the inside of a piano?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? What were you doing in there?
I used to play piano, so.
Yeah, that's true.
You kind of like mess around with it. I've seen someone like take apart a piano a few times. I've tried to tune a piano once, and that was very unsuccessful.
Oh yeah, that's the one musical instrument that I would never try to tune.
Yeah.
There's always just there's always an old man with one massive ear that just turns up, and he's got all these little tools, and that he tunes your piano. You don't mess with it.
He had symmetrical ears, but yeah.
Is that the same as building wheels though? Like I've been building wheels for years and years, and I still don't believe anyone that says, "Oh, I can build a wheel just by plucking at the spoke."
Yeah, it's bollocks.
I'm going to tune this wheel up.
It's like I did have a colleague who did that initially. Like she would kind of like just to see like if everything's got some tension in it, and then you start building, you tension it up. But yeah, people that think that it should be all the same
this one.
pitch, it's
this
like,
sharp.
Yeah, no.
I thought that was just a rite of passage that all wheel builders went through. Like
it's like tartan paint.
Yeah,
you can tune a wheel just by
and then
use your long weight.
Yeah. And then eventually you find out, he's just talking bollocks.
There's a lot of that in the bike industry.
I think with wheel building especially.
Yeah. There's. I remember when I first learned to do it, and I was like, the magic thing. And then it's like, no, it's actually
you're doing one thing in 4 different ways.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's so it's
you don't need a big ear.
No.
Make it sound so simple.
Wheel building is simple.
Yeah.
It's just people look at it and see lots of things. They'll be like, it must be hard. No, anyone can do it.
They also think that it's kind of like there's some magic to getting it really good. It's like, no, it just has to be tight.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Although if you come back 2 weeks later and the wheel's completely buckled, then you know you didn't do it right the first time.
I'm always like, hand one over to someone and go, ride that, and let me know if it's still in one piece like next week.
Well, is there a difference though between, you know, building a wheel from fresh, where everything's fresh, the rim's fresh, the spokes are fresh, and so on, and the hub's good, and you know, someone bringing in a wheel that's been ridden and it's come out of true, and then you've got to retune it, and
I think the worst
there's a little bit more
is when
nuance.
people want to reuse spokes.
Yeah.
That doesn't quite work. You can, if you're doing a rim swap, that could work. But reusing spokes that have been taken out of a hub and then built up into another wheel, that's going to be harder because it's all bedded in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
Why would someone want to do that? Just to save cost?
money.
Costs, yeah.
Okay.
Spokes used to be about 50p each. And then
50p?
yeah, like 40p for a DT Swiss
Yeah.
double
Now they're
button
like
spoke.
£3 or something
Yeah.
each.
But surely if you have a new wheel, I mean, for me, I'd want the whole thing to be new because it's lovely to think of that as a whole new thing rather than...
I think if it's like a commuter or a touring bike or
Right.
something that's just, you know, you just want it to do
Doesn't
the
really
job.
matter, yeah, I guess.
Just got to put together. Yeah. Like hubs. Hubs is a thing I always find. Like people have got. There are certain brands of used hubs that are like, yeah, that's going to last you forever. You just keep going. Whatever. It doesn't matter if you've got a few marks on it, like Hope or something like that. But then there are some. Usually the ones that come with the quite expensive wheels. That's like, and somebody's like, "Oh, can you rebuild this?" I'm like, "I could, but it will break."
Yeah.
With glass washers and brass washers
Yeah.
and glass washers.
Oh god. Yeah. No one knows what those things are. The little tiny.
What's the
tiny-
most therapeutic thing about building a wheel?
I'd say that I think most people get into mechanics because it's like a process, isn't it? So it's the same with building wheels. Like, you know, you've got an issue, you have to figure out what's wrong with it. And building wheels, you've got all the spokes and you put them all together, and it's definitely a process that you go through, and then you come out with like a finished thing. So it's quite therapeutic in that way. When everything else is all hectic going on, and actually you can just focus on this for an hour, and then you've got a finished item at the end.
Yeah.
Does that just not put you in a state of just like uncontrollable rage?
No,
When it
I
doesn't
think
go well?
I think you've got the control, haven't you? And then you've got the
No.
steps. No, you see, that's the
I
thing.
do not have the control.
When you're dealing with the bikes, you know, you've got no one arguing back, I guess. But with bike fitters, I'm sure you've got issues with your
Talking back.
customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't like it when they do that.
Yeah.
So you can't really go through the process when you've got someone talking back at you.
You can't also go into the state of rage. Yeah, that's where you're going with this, yeah.
But I want a 145 stem.
I want a 147.5.
Oh, we
could do
had
that.
someone over there who needed a 190, didn't we?
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
What?
True story.
Take 100 and 200 and cut it down a bit.
Cut it in half, glue it back together again.
Just take 2 tubes, weld them together.
Yeah. Did you see that? Did I send you that post on the mountain bike mechanics? Like, there's some guy who posted a question on a mountain bike forum. It's like, oh, my bars like
That
were
was
too
the first
wide.
mistake.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, oh, my bars are too wide, so I cut them down. But now they feel
Send me that.
now they feel all wobbly. And what he'd done is cut the bar in the middle of the bar, then tried to put the two pieces together and clamp it in the stem. He's like, oh, my bars feel a bit wobbly. What's going on?
Compliance. I'm
got
sure
two-
Canyon will come up with that as a feature.
Special already, they're already thinking about that.
Yeah.
They'll be marketing that as some sort of new Generation 2 Future Shock.
What are they
But the
called?
Canyon bars do come apart, don't
Yeah,
they?
they've got
Yeah.
adjustable. But then they broke in that race
Yeah.
in the beginning of the year, and I guess they
Vanderpool.
took-
They're not still
Did they-
doing it, are they? Not still producing them.
If that happened to my stuff on television, I would take it off the market
Yeah.
immediately. The fact that they haven't,
That's weird.
That
I mean, I
worries
guess they've got
me.
to sell, right?
Yeah, like all that. So their latest
That
and
was sarcasm.
greatest.
Wait.
The latest.
your voice doesn't change when you do that.
Yeah, the latest Kenyan enduro race that just came out, CFR, whatever. It's it used to be. I don't know, some
Carbon fibre
marketing
race.
crap.
It means nothing. I don't know why they use. Let's put some letters on it.
Yeah, and yeah, it's got all integrated with the special integrated handlebars, which have, yeah, they have width adjustment, which is great. They have a little bit of height adjustment. Can you adjust the actual length of the stem? No, you can't.
So just, yeah,
You know.
everything
Can
but
you
the
use a
length.
different bar and stem? No.
No.
What you would gain in the aerodynamic advantage of having everything integrated, how much would you then lose if the bike was fitted wrong and you put yourself in an uncomfortable position?
The rider generally accounts for up to 80% of the drag on a bicycle.
Okay.
Aerodynamics does not really matter
Yeah.
at our kind of level. Like,
Are we
Really?
going to see the big brands going back down the route of having stems that you can change?
No,
Specialised
they make
ACOS.
too much money.
Yeah.
they toyed with it. It was brilliant, and they're like, no, SLA.
Yeah, now they've gone completely into it.
You know that bar and stem that didn't work very well on the SL7? Well, what we've done is we've painted it slightly differently.
No, that's quite cynical, but also a lot of truth in it.
Are you hoping to get any like partners come into this podcast? Would you look at Specialised or Canyon?
Does it sound like
This week's episode sponsored
I
by
think-
Specialised.
I mean, we're already going out on a limb by getting you in here. We're going to get kicked out of this building.
what we want sponsorship, right? We want some funding, but we don't want it from bike brands. We want it from other stuff like coffee brands or beer or something completely unrelated to
Well,
cycling.
just like the rest
So
of
that
the
we can
bike
continue-
industry, let's get like
Beer
building
sounds great.
brands in and people who make
Should we try and get
toothpaste.
quick step floors?
Yeah, quick step
'Cause
floors.
Your,
Yeah.
your floor could do with an update. Couldn't it?
Yeah.
I like this
Like-
floor.
Yeah,
I think
but
it's
like
alright.
maybe but can you imagine if it was like parquet flooring? Oh, fantastic, wouldn't it?
Amazing.
And then you'd need somebody to do windows. I think they've
Yeah.
got a related like sister company possibly.
Yeah.
We could get a proper booth to do the podcasting.
Yeah, yeah. Some lighting, some cameras, and we get sponsored by Canon.
Canon.
Canon. Sponsored by Canon. And then
Yeah.
we
The
could
last episode.
do some
The
video.
Canyon ship has definitely sailed. 100%.
If Canyon did a ship, it would not sail. It'd be at the bottom of an ocean like that submarine.
Oh dear.
Speaking of carbon fibre,
So,
Oh god.
uh,
So what are we actually talking about today?
well,
wait.
yeah, we do have Matt here, and Matt, apart from his fantastic mechanics, well, you were recently at Worlds, weren't you?
Yeah, so I went up to Glasgow with Team Kenya. So I met them originally when the Commonwealth Games were here. Their bike hadn't arrived. So I had a few people asking me, can we lend them a bike for training on, hoping that their bike would turn up. And of course it never did, so they ended up racing on one of our hire bikes, which broke a few rules, but we kind of ignored it because it was a Commonwealth Games. But then ever since then, I kept in contact with them. And of course, coming towards Glasgow, I was like, actually, I could probably do the same. So I lent them a bike, a tandem. They didn't race on the track, but they did the road events.
Amazing.
The Power Road, the time trial, the road race. So yeah, I went up there, went up to Glasgow, took the bike up, and then ended up spending the whole week with them.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. Actually, it was nice to kind of, because all the big events I've been to, or worked on, it's always been as part of the venue or as part of the technical stuff. So then to go, as part of a team, that was really interesting. It was a little bit different, and you sort of saw different things, and yeah.
Did you see anyone that you'd worked with in the past up there? Did you?
Yeah, there's always familiar faces.
So kind of like camaraderie with the other
Yeah,
teams and stuff like that.
I'll tell you what, the camaraderie I saw was between the African nations. I mean, you wouldn't, maybe you would, but I doubt you'd ever get sort of a Team GB or something working with the Australians. But you had the Kenyans were helping out the Rwandans, and the Rwandans were helping out the Kenyans, and they were sharing a lot of stuff. Even just logistics, because even though it was the Glasgow World Championships, there was about 200 miles in between the venues. From some sort of the mountain biking.
You don't sort of think about that when you see the events. It's like, oh, okay, well that's one stream and that's another stream. You don't realise that they're...
Yeah, imagine if you could
miles
have
apart.
everything in one city. the downhill mountain biking.
Oh, can you imagine downhill through the city?
Glasgow.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, down
Were you
Montreal
happy with the
Street.
results?
The two guys were helping out. It was Kennedy, the visually impaired rider, and Peter, his pilot. So they ended up the fastest Africans in the time trial, and then in the road race, they even beat the Malaysians as well.
Wow.
So yeah, I think hopefully now they've got the UCI points, they've had the placing in the Worlds, so now it's looking at the Paralympics in Paris next year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That
Fantastic.
I can't imagine. Just can't imagine. Like how visually impaired are we talking? Like
He can get about. He's not completely blind.
But if you were to like say put on like an eye mask or something to give us similar acuity to what he had, you would never in a million years want to get on a bike.
No.
And that's like
There's
must be like seriously exhilarating as well. Like,
there's a lot of trust
Yeah.
between the pilot and the stoker. Back in Kenya, they're neighbours, so
nice.
they see each other most days. They're with each other most days. But also, it's not just the pairing on the tandem, because you could get two people and they'll be perfect on the tandem. They work really well, but if they don't get on the rest of the time, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
And it's for the pilots. It is like a 24-hour job. Because they're rooming together, they're guiding
the training,
they're guiding even to and from breakfast and
Right.
stuff. So, yeah, it's seeing those two work together was really, really right. It was really nice. There was some pairings. I think it was the Swiss team. I don't know what happened, but in the end, one of their pilots didn't race, so they were signed up to race, didn't race. And they had to have somebody else step in at the last minute, and I think that would be an absolute
That would be
nightmare.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I absolutely loved it there. I got to help out the under 23 men's race rider, which was Moses. But so he'd never been in the UK before, never left Kenya.
Wow.
So it was all very,
Cool.
very last minute with visa issues.
Glasgow was the first thing you saw of the UK.
Yeah, it was me at the airport. picking him up, I know. But yeah, so he was in the race. I think normally in a World Championships, the under 23 race, will come before the men's elites race. But of course, this one, it was all flipped around. So now you've seen all these under 23 riders have seen what's happened in the elite race. So it was spicy right from the beginning. Everyone wanted to make sure they were in that front group coming into Glasgow. And as great as Moses was on a bike, he's never experienced that before. He's never experienced like a 85 kilo Belgian 22-year-old on his shoulder. So they did suffer there a little bit. But it was a great experience for everyone, and having everything happening at the same time was it was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for the fans as well. Don't know if the riders really enjoyed the circuit,
The road circuit.
but
I made a few social media comments about I was like,
Sound like it.
probably not too popular with Glaswegians at the moment.
What were the comments out of interest?
Just, I'm not going to say this because I don't want to click the explicit button. But I was like, you can't. Yes, it was. It did make it exciting racing, right? Because, most inner city crits are quite exciting because the roads are shoddy. But there was some bit. I mean, even Van der Poel like going down like that. Although he did a bit of a silly move.
And the mountain bike thing?
No,
In the road, he did both, didn't he?
That was his own fault, man. Jesus.
I know.
That was
and
terrible, wasn't
he
it?
crashed in the road race and then he won it, right? I just, it's funny because I was having this conversation with somebody about Formula One the other day. I was saying, it's just like now it's like way too safe. The excitement's gone. It's like the engines are like nothing. You want some danger, and they were like, no, you should, as a professional sports person, you should never have to, be at mortal risk, for your chosen sport. But at the same time, I kind of saw the flip side of it, because in the cycling, I was like, if I saw that course, I'd be like, I'm not racing on that. That's That's insane. That's like some really...
Years ago, when I started racing, somebody once told me that there's no such thing as an unsafe course. It's just unsafe riders. And it's true though. Like you know, we've all, I don't know, we all raced. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you do some races where you didn't feel that confident, but you know, there was other riders that did really, really well. And I think with this Worlds, with you know Van der Poel and Kopecky, they're the riders you expected to do well. Yeah, I think it's brilliant.
I think it was exciting in hindsight after watching it. I just thought initially, I was like, yeah, you're right. There's only unsafe riders, but they're everywhere. That's the problem. It's like, you know, it's like the car thing, isn't it? It's like, oh, this road is safe. It's like, well, no, not if somebody decides to do 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. I mean, that's racing though.
Yeah, true, and absolutely right. I've been told well and truly, and I agree that it should be as dangerous as possible because I want it to be exciting.
I mean, if you don't like crit racing, just go do a time trial.
Exactly. Don't make me do it. I'll borrow your bike.
I once did a downhill race, and it should have been called off because the weather beforehand was just terrible, and I spent most of the time on my arse. No, it's terrible. I was going faster on my arse down the hill. And I remember going through one of the checkpoints, and the guy, I was only 15 at the time, it was quite mean. He just started laughing because he knew what number it was, and he was like, you might as well just stop, you know. And I was thinking, no, I'm not going to stop because obviously I'm going to go down the course. And I carried on my arse, and I made it, but I did almost came last. So, you know, it wasn't very fun, I must admit.
I've just remembered one race I did once, so I'll take back my previous comment. It was at the London Bike Show when they held it at the Excel Centre. Was it the Excel?
Yeah.
And it was indoor crit.
Yeah.
And that was racing into that first corner, which they had painted, so it was a little bit grippier. But
it wasn't carpet then.
it was. Yeah, that terrified me. And I think once I had that first corner was the worst corner. And then I went through the field after that. I was out the back.
It's easy to lose. It's easy to lose confidence in racing. I mean, again, there's two ways to go. There's either you lose confidence and you're like, okay, I'm going to back off. I'm not going to go for the sprint. I'm not going to go through this corner too fast. I'm going to, you know, and then everyone passes you. And then you've got people like me who just go, I don't care, and I've broken nearly everybody because you know. But again, you have to take the rough with the smooth, don't you? You sort of have to decide, okay, is it worth the risk? Like at my age, I'm not going to do any more crits because I know it's dangerous and I have to work for a living. But when I was younger, I was...
You bounce.
You break stuff and you come back. You come back really quick. And again, mountain biking is another thing. Get me on a mountain bike, and as soon as you remove the other people from the equation and you're on your own, and then it's like I'm a lot more confident to do what some might consider as risky things.
I don't think you're chasing someone though, because then you go faster, don't you? I remember doing a cyclocross race last year, and I went way faster on the descent skills trying to catch people.
So the commonality here is remove the people.
Yeah.
Things get better.
Let's just all ride on our own.
Time trials.
Time trials.
Yeah. But look at some of the circuits that you've got around London, like, you know, Hillingdon. Hillingdon is notorious for being a sketchy circuit, Spillingdon. But then it's...
This is called Crash Valley as well.
But then it's a perfect circuit. You know, it's wide, you know, it's good. It's
not
good
that
tarmac.
many corners.
There's no extreme corners, there's no big descents. It's a perfect circuit to ride your bike fast on. It only becomes an issue, when you put other people in there. So we just need to get.
How many broken collarbones do you get a week here? Like...
It seems quite safe. Yeah, big crashes happen in all races, don't they?
Are we talking about road circuit or are we talking about velodrome?
I think probably more happens on the road circuit.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I have a punctured lung to attest to that.
You have to pass a test to go on the road circuit, do you?
No, you don't have to pass a test. You don't have to do any kind of accreditation, Matt. You don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
It's just insane. I don't understand
gone,
how they allow this, but they do, and that's why I've got...
Well, the Surrey League and the South East Road Race League did, you had to do 2 intro sessions before you could race in their 4th cat races. I don't know if that was ever then adopted elsewhere.
I don't think so, which is a shame. I really think it should be. I think, you know, especially if you're a parent and you want get your kids to do it, You just want at least every rider be on the same page. Like the velodrome accreditation, that makes sense, right? At least people are like, okay, you can't overtake on the left. You've got to be, and you've got the lines and stuff like that. Maybe they could paint coloured lines around the road circuit.
We're saying that down in Brighton at Preston Park where they do the circuits.
That's a good one, that one.
Yeah, but the track is the track. But then when you've got road crits on there, all the track rules that I've learned, don't undertake. If you're in the, below the sprinters line, you don't go underneath. Someone else can't go underneath it. But then you put a road course on there, and all those track rules disappear.
Wow.
And then that's when you've got issues as well. But yeah, there's no such thing as this.
I think the track outside is really nice.
Yeah.
I tried it out for last week for the first time, and my partner comes here basically almost every day now.
You mean this one?
She loves it because you don't have to.
You don't have to brake.
Compete with road. You have no pollution. You have no cars.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I mean, in that sense, like that when you take cars out of the equation, you take drivers out of the equation, you feel way safer. So you end up being the risk to yourself, which is, I'm happy with that. I think that's. But again, the more variables you introduce.
So like my mind went there was, you said you become the risk to yourself.
Yeah.
My mind was like, you become the problem.
I say risk, you say problem. Let's call the whole thing off.
Yeah. Well, how did your African guys kind of take the road race? How did Moses feel afterwards?
Yeah, so in the time trial, it's all like that was brilliant. They did everything they had to do. I think the difference is then it just came down to they did get overtaken by a few of their Minutemen, but the kit that some of these other teams had, we're talking thousands and thousands of pounds, full carbon rigs, like fully like tested to an inch of their aerodynamic lives. Like they looked proper like absolute machines on those bikes. And then you've got Kennedy and Peter, who are sort of on a bike that I bought up for them. Yeah, they did well. They did well.
That's amazing, though. I think
Yeah.
Yeah, just describe the bike.
So it was a aluminium tandem, which I mean most tandems are still aluminium because it's a little bit beefier. It had, because I put my group set onto it.
Did you?
So I wanted to try and make it a little bit racier. So it has a Force 1 by, which was actually worked quite well on that course. But yeah, they hadn't been on the bike before the day before the race.
Wow.
So that was a bit of a.
How did you
fit
them to the bike? Yeah.
Did you eyeball it?
Yeah.
Could have taken us with you.
We had a turbo trainer set up in the hotel room, and
it's like building wheels, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's easy.
Easy.
Yeah, with what we had, because they did bring a bike with them, but they couldn't race on it because unfortunately, it's the issue with a lot of these nations coming from Africa, they don't have the same support, even the same access to components or anything. So the bike he bought with him was, was an older bike, and a mix of mountain bike components and road components, and it works fine for them to ride. But as soon as you sort of want to race on it, I think that's going to be.
How did you get this job? Sorry.
Oh, so with the Kenyans.
Yeah. What was your personal interest as well?
I've just been, ever since I met them at the Commonwealths, just been kept in touch. And it was just, I felt like it was if it was any way I could support them, I was going to take the opportunity to do so. Yeah, I wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't expecting to sort of have as much involvement as I did on the way up. But in the end, because of being a small team, and with the races being, so far away from each other, with the able-bodied stuff as well as the power. I had a car, and I could drive them to and from the start lines as well. So, it was good. Yeah. And I think now, hopefully, I'm going to use my coaching qualifications and actually get them into a better position before the Paralympics next year.
Okay.
That's the
And
goal.
what's the setup like in terms of like the federation in Kenya and what they kind of have to work with to train for something as big as the World Champs?
It's all part-time.
Okay.
You know, here obviously you've got, well, British Cycling, and you've got riders that can train full-time. These guys, they've got other jobs. They work in bike shops as like selling second-hand bikes. There's a big market for second-hand bikes from England to Kenya.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where they've all gone.
Yeah. Yeah, so and even the people that work as part of the federations, like the team managers, they've all got second jobs. So this is all just, they've got an interest in they're doing
I guess
it.
cycling is still like a relatively new kind of sport, effectively, in these African nations compared to like more established sports like running, football, athletics, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously athletics is the big one in Kenya. But a lot of it is down to the state of the roads as well.
Yeah.
Like training is, you're playing with your life a lot of the time. Like we think we've got it bad here with you know, drivers and stuff, just because the amount of drivers on the road. But there, like, there's been cases where riders just been hit and left.
Yeah.
You know, lots of hit and runs and stuff, and obviously.
I thought you were going to say some kind of crazy animals that you have to compete with.
Maybe. I'm hoping to get out there and actually visit.
Yeah.
I've got the invites, and I just need to.
Are there events out there that?
Yeah, there's gravel's big. So
Okay.
gravel's on the grove.
I was going to say, well, if you haven't got roads, you've definitely got gravel.
And you've got there's one team is it Team Amani that have had sort of support from Wahoo and Factor.
Nice. Oh,
so they're doing quite well. There's riders from there that have been coming over and doing. I think somebody was at the Nordic Gravel Series the other week. That's
amazing.
Worlds and stuff.
That'd be interesting to see the different dynamic now that gravel has become a professional sport, and it's kind of, you know, there's room for some different nationalities to actually get into cycling.
And I think so. The big thing I noticed was obviously during even looking at the time trial, like the Elite TT for the men and the women. The riders that are up at the pointy ends, you expect them to be there, but just imagine the power sort of the other riders are doing, but on kit that is, you know, 15 years old, clip-on aero bars, you know, like if they had the same support and the same products, everything would be different. Yeah. There's a lot of untapped.
It's not a level playing field.
No.
It's a mechanical arms race, effectively. Yeah. And the more money you have, the better equipment you can afford, and the better chance your riders are going to be to place higher. And this is kind of like, what irks me about bike racing a little bit, basically, is there is an element of mechanical and financial doping, effectively. Yeah. Because, you know, you have two people with the same ability.
Alarm goes off, you said doping.
Two people, same ability. One's on a £1,500 bike from 10 years ago, one's on a brand new, you know, super bike. It's not a fair race. Yeah.
I mean, yes, and also I spend a lot of time telling people you don't need that.
No, of course. I'm being like facetious. There's obviously a lot more nuance to it.
You're right in the sense that, it does matter, and especially particularly in the sense of what's that banging? Particularly in the sense of
objections.
Objections. Shouldn't have said doping. Particularly in the sense of when you're at that level, like everything does count. That's when those things start to count, even if it's just my bike looks cool. You know, even if it's just that visual sense of oh, that's new. You know, I feel more confident.
Helmets,
oh yeah, skin suits and helmets definitely. Yeah,
we know all that stuff matters.
Well, if you're not getting, if you're fitting in a hotel room, like the difference between that and then having somebody who's been studying it for God knows how long, and then kind of like getting in the wind tunnel and having a full extensive fit, and it's having your choice of saddles, having your choice of handlebar widths and everything else, you know, to make it as ergonomic as possible.
Well, we were talking last night with someone about how the average speed of races is just going up and up and up, and even at the amateur level, like they were referencing Hillingdon, how the average speed has gone up from like 42
to 48.
to 48k
Really?
an hour. Yeah.
So yeah, I noticed that like
That's a big
doing
step.
solo league races like 15 years ago, like if it was hitting 40 kilometre an hour average, like that'd be a fairly spicy race.
Yeah.
Like, but now, even just a couple of years ago, we did the same circuit. It was like up to 44, and you're like, it's meant to be a hilly race. What's going on? You know. Is that down to the bikes or is it down to Zwift?
Well, he was citing like a couple of factors really. So the bikes, everyone's on faster bikes now. Skin suits and helmets, so position and aerodynamic stuff. And then the other thing is sports science, the way people are training, the way people are fueling. People are a lot more tuned in now to how they're training, the importance of recovery, like intensity control, what they're consuming, when they're consuming it, and treating the body as an engine rather than, just, this is something that we do on a weekend. So people are taking it a lot more seriously.
You still can't take corners.
But essentially, it's like it's like the rise of the professional amateur.
Yeah. But I wonder how much of that. Yeah, okay, nutrition, equipment, all that stuff. But how much of it is just people are exploring their limits more because there's a lot more information out there from the professional level where you can see the difference with a lot of people between having this average speed on your ride and having that average speed is a lot of it is just, I didn't realise I could push myself that hard and I'm still alive. I'm going to keep pushing.
I didn't have a heart attack.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Does that mean pros are getting faster as well then?
I think the races are getting faster. I don't think people are getting faster. I think it's just that, they're always talking about it. Oh, now the racing has gone from the gun. It's going, it's super fast. They're still paying for it.
Because if it is equipment based, you must see that improvement on both amateurs and pros, right? Because
I think pros have always had access to the best equipment, and I think the level of racing, I think the amount of people racing at a certain high level is probably more these days. Just like looking at the current Tour de France and so on, those guys are just. There's so many people that are so good, and just being able to race day after day after day after day without doping.
For the listeners at home, Wei just made an inverted commas hand gesture.
Well, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt without doping, but they're still faster than when everything was doping.
I'll interject. Their seasons are getting shorter.
Are they though?
I think so. I think if you look, so
not if you whack one up.
Well, yeah, but then he'll do nothing. Have a few, do some classics, do some tours, and then we'll see. Like he's not. Is he
cyclocross?
He's doing cross, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not till the winter.
Cross, classics, Grand Tours.
He spends most of the time injured though, so that's probably.
No, he's not doing Vuelta. He's doing Tour of Britain.
He's doing Tour of Britain.
He's doing Tour of Britain, so he's not doing the Vuelta.
No.
Tour of Britain, come on.
Yeah, but I think there's the intensity.
I think people are getting smarter. I think it's the information that's out there now. Because you've got people like Inigo San Milan who are going on GCN, so it's like the masses, learning about Zone 2 stuff, which isn't rocket science, it's just intensity control. Yeah. So people are training smarter. They have coaches, they have power meters, they have things to regulate them, i.e. slow them down, so they can do more training, recover faster, and then put the effort in when it matters. So people are getting smarter because there's a lot more information out there. 10, 15 years ago, there was only a handful of people that knew this stuff, like Team Sky, like Brailsford and all those people. They were like the marginal gains crowd. Now everyone, like Jim from finance is into his marginal gains.
Yeah, I know everyone's got an armband.
Exactly, everyone's got like a Super Sapiens glucose monitor, and it's insane. But the knowledge that's out there now and how accessible it is, I think that's a big part of why people are getting faster.
Is it accessible because people have got a lot of disposable income?
Yeah.
So then the disparity between those people and let's say Team Kenya or 100%. Anyone else around the world.
And you see that at Hillingdon, you see it here.
We see it magnified in what you were saying about them not having the equipment and not having the,
funding.
Give them all that And then, I mean, it doesn't even take that much money. It just takes speaking to the right people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's also about how you use that money. Like, how smart are you with doing it? Like, as Matt was saying, there's a lot more knowledge that is available and accessible, and so you can be more smart. But there's also a lot of misuse, or just like throwing money at the problem. I mean the classic, not abuse, but
abuse of funds.
That's a little bit harsh. But like, it's easy to buy your way to more speed if you want to, or like the feeling is that you can just buy your way to more speed.
Is that right or wrong?
You can, to a point, right? There's always like a steep curve. So if you're going from like, a bike with, a mountain bike group set on it from 20 years ago, to go on something like even just more modern, like that works and is smooth and there's less friction and all this kind of stuff, you're going to see a gain. But there's always going to be a point where you're going to throw, like, the difference between a £1,500 bike and a £5,000 bike is massive. The difference between a £5,000 bike and an £8,000 bike is smaller. An £8 to a £12 bike, £1,000 bike, there's no difference. So the gains are always going to get incrementally smaller as you get more towards the pointy end.
And the individual will plateau at some point.
Yeah.
You can't keep getting faster,
There's loads of different factors, but it's that kind of, you can throw money at it to a point, but then there's a point where you need to actually think about what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, power meters is a classic.
Oh, yeah.
It's always like, I need a power meter, I need a power meter.
Really?
Like, it's not going to ride your bike for you, mate.
No. It's going to make it heavier.
I think the support staff as well has a lot to do with it. Like, looking at the Team GB, like, for every rider, they've probably got one support staff. There's a lot of people there that aren't riding. For when I was helping with the Kenyans, it was me and two others and 4 riders. So it was a small team, but you just imagine you've got, the other teams have got the dietitians, someone making sure they're all, the soigneurs, and, a team of mechanics and everything.
Did you have to do the massages as well then?
I gave them a little pre-warm-up.
Did you?
Yeah, pre-race rub. I did ask them to shave their legs, but they refused to do that.
Yes.
But you see, that was probably 20 seconds there at a time.
That's the reason they lost.
They
didn't win, I should say.
Yeah.
Oh no, but it's part of for me anyway, when I was racing, it's part of the routine, isn't it? You get your legs, I mean, it didn't matter who was doing it, a little bit of tanning oil on the legs. Will set you right up. That smell of invocation. that got me
Vicks Vapor Rub.
It's always sort of going across.
What a treat.
Yeah, but going across the races in Belgium, like I took my partner Alice out to Belgium in the summer, a few weeks, a couple of months ago. It was just walking to the sign-on in a pub, in a little side room of a pub, and you can smell that like mixture of the cigarettes outside, the alcohol, the pints that are everywhere, and that invocation smell. And that's like the Kermesse racing with the, you've got your burgers and your hot dogs in the background as well. Like, that's just something you can't replicate. You have to experience it.
Bottle that.
The Kermesse.
But can you imagine trying to explain that kind of emotion and feeling, and to new riders who do not have the same connection to that history or segment of cycling, and so, or even like talking when you listen to the Tour de France and the commentators talking to newer riders, and they don't know who, well, I don't know, Sean Kelly, or I don't know, Eddie Merckx. Everyone knows Eddie Merckx, right? But there are kind of the like Bernardino, like all these kind of bigger names that maybe we grew up with, or we know through the history of the sport. But there are riders who just come into the sport just as bike riders, and there's not that same connection or history or emotion with it.
I mean, they're making history right now, right? That's what they're learning there, and they make their connections.
Well, going back to this, why races are so fast, is it because they are fully televised? So many races now, we've got a lot more
cars, a lot more motor.
Exactly. I was thinking more, there's a lot more
pressure on
a lot more pressure for the riders to perform. Whereas
the negative stuff.
even if you go back, 15 years ago, the only race you could possibly see on the TV was maybe the Tour.
Yeah.
And
then you'd still only see the last 30k.
Yeah, but now you've got races happening from January, February onwards, where you can watch the whole thing live on GCN.
There's a reason that flat stages were called transition stages, right? They were the only reason that they were there was just to get all the riders and the whole caravan from one town to another town where the next big stage, the big hill climbs would start. Now it's like, you watch all this old footage and they're just drinking, eating a banana, drinking some Perrier. They run into the calf, and they're just chatting and all sorts. And now it's like from the gun, they are.
What would
last in it?
Did we like this year's Tour de France where they mixed up the course? It was hilly straight away. There's hardly any transition stages.
From the get-go, it was absolutely mental, wasn't it? I mean, I found it really entertaining.
I think it can go one or two ways though. If you have high mountains in the first week, you can either get like a Vingegaard, someone like that, or a Pogacar if he was on form, just like pulling away and the race is done.
He was on form, he just got beaten.
He doesn't like the heat. He doesn't do well in the heat.
It's like you've got like the big GC guys who can either put like a massive gap in the first week and the race is over and then it's a long 3 weeks. Or it can really blow apart and it's quite exciting. So it's a risk, like on the part of the organisers.
They do a lot for entertainment. They do a lot for the purposes of entertainment, and it starts to get to the point where, like, if it's not exciting, it's because the riders aren't really doing. They're not going for it. So if you artificially try to force them into racing certain ways, it's going to make things suffer in a different way. And then, what I'm getting at is, are they basically encouraging people to get a little help?
Well, I think this year's
by
tour
making it so hard.
Yeah, I think this year's tour was super exciting.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, I totally agree. I think they should all be doping. It's fucking awesome. that's what, cut. The 90s was awesome.
But in terms of like the route and high mountains in the first week, that kind of thing, I think that kind of made for quite exciting racing.
But like I say, is that not encouraging? Like, that's going to be really hard. People, if you're a 22-year-old. And it's like, is this going to be my career, or am I going home to work in my parents' restaurant, whatever it is?
I still like to, think that it's clean. That
I like to.
Yeah, I think it has to be really. If you really want to talk about people getting performance enhancing aids, you just got to look at the Masters racing. Or
I wasn't going to say anything.
or even people doing laps of Regent's Park. Like
I was there this morning.
Yeah.
Did you see anyone do any doping?
No comment. I haven't seen people sticking needles in their arms, but there's a difference between somebody who's had a few too many coffees and somebody who has not had a few too many coffees. You know what I mean? Because there's a bit of an attitude that goes on, and you can. It's not exactly a secret.
I don't think this is unique to cycling.
Not at all. Absolutely not. Yeah.
So you think Masters?
I'm sure on the park run they're all over it.
Yeah, I think
Or you just got to look at triathlon as well.
Triathlon. Oh my word. Well, Vinokurov's cleaning up in triathlon.
Didn't he just win? What was that? Gravel?
It was Grand Fondo, wasn't it?
Oh, the Grand Fondo.
The Grand Fondo, yeah.
Should there be limitations to who can actually enter these events? Not whether they have a sordid history or a past or whatever, just if you are a pro, right, and then you've retired, is it time for you to go, let someone else play? This isn't really fair.
No. I think it's perfectly fine.
I mean, I want to see Lance Armstrong in the Grand Fondo.
He'll be back.
That'd be hilarious. I don't see why not.
I think that's my one chance of ever getting a national title. It's just to be the last one standing.
Wait until you're like 90, and then you enter a category where it's just you.
I've got 20 or so years to start the training, and then I'll be peaking for my 95th birthday.
90 to 94 age group.
Well, was there a lot of doping control through the Worlds?
We never experienced any of it.
Yeah.
Not with the Kenyans.
Missed opportunity there.
But, I mean, that's the thing. They can't test every every single rider, right? They have to just go, well, there's no point testing people who are not competing for the, let's say, the top 10 or top 20 or whatever. Just concentrate on those people, because if you're doping but you're nowhere, well, nobody cares anymore. They don't care if you're winning.
I mean, I don't know what the stats are, but I'm pretty sure that anyone that's got busted for doping recently isn't just because of a test. I think there's a lot more people aware of it. I think there's a lot of people willing to dob someone in.
Yeah.
You know? People don't want to see it.
Yeah, you'd be pretty annoyed, wouldn't you, being a racer and knowing kind of someone's doing it? That would be.
Yeah.
I mean, if you knew somebody was doing it, but at the same time, if you're also doing it, that's how you end up with this culture that we have in professional sport. You know, there's a lot of money involved. People are betting. There's a lot of pressure on very young people who are naive. They don't really know any better. And if you get to the point where it's like, well, either you take this or go home and don't do this anymore, I know that's the decision I'd make if I was that young and somebody gave me that sort of ultimatum. Probably I'd do it too, you know.
Well, we had it a few years ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was the London time trialist. I can't remember his name. Rode for one of the London clubs. He was 18, 19.
Yeah.
Got busted.
Jesus.
I just say it's too many. The scapegoating the riders is just like, you know, it's totally wrong. And obviously there's a culture of it, and there's governing bodies that are responsible for it, and they need to be the ones who are chastised.
But it's also a very clear responsibility of the athlete. If you are a professional athlete, you just have to be very, very strict or cognizant of the parameters in which you operate in. You know, if you take a legitimate drug, but it's got traces of something else, or even like a gel that's been produced in a factory that's touched other substances which are banned, then, you know, you get done for it. And
where do you stop though? Where do you set the thresholds? All of a sudden now they've got an entire Bible of banned substances, and imagine the confusion, especially if you're young. You just want to race your bike, you know. Do you have to go through
that's your responsibility as a professional.
That's a professional. Yeah, you just.
It's like me with my lactose intolerance. I have to check the ingredients on the back of every packet.
Literally.
Otherwise, you pay the price.
You know.
I go faster though.
I think
I'm done.
If you're buying sketchy supplements, then
you probably want to have a word with yourself.
Yeah, there are a lot of supplements, aren't there? There are so many. There's a new one every week, it seems like, and there's. I suppose if a company gets big enough and popular enough, it's going to be within their interests as well, not to make sure that their products are clean.
What were Jumbo playing with? Bicarb?
Oh, they've been doing that for years and years and years, though, haven't they?
Yeah, bicarb's it's been proven.
Kitchen cupboards.
Yeah. I heard they just dropped some Mentos in a bottle of Coke.
I mean, actually, talking about supplements, I still stand by Coke and water, half Coke, half water.
Yeah.
It's got me out of many a sticky situation.
Really?
You know.
Well, that's just fueling 101. You just need glucose. You just need sugar.
Sugar.
There's there's the anti-sugar brigade though now, and you know there's all these supplements coming out with sweeteners and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's not what I want. That's not what my body needs. I need, I want sugar.
But though professionals still get it wrong, and we were talking last night about Vincent Luis, triathlete, and there was a big story about him having heart problems and so on. But actually, it just turned out that he'd done too much caffeine, just like double dosed his caffeine tablet, and just freaking messed his heart up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a professional, but you still make silly mistakes. So.
Is it done post-race, these kind of testing? Like, because obviously you said that you went through a screening process before. But what about if one of your guys had have won, for example? Would they be? Would it be okay to test after that? Like,
so normally in a racing situation, the winners will then get escorted straight into the anti-doping booth.
Really, straight away?
Yeah,
that's so interesting.
Okay. And the anti-doping officer is not allowed to let that rider out their sight. And that's the first thing they do.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
And then you've got the whereabouts testing as well. A lot of the top riders, they have to notify whoever it is, UCADA or the UCI, of their whereabouts at any point, and they can be tested at any point between 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. at night. And you will just have anti-doping officers turn up.
Okay.
years ago, the only time I've ever been around a test, I was over in Belgium with a rider. So we were riding the senior race, and this friend of mine was there with his dad riding the junior race, and he just got pulled out, random anti-doping test, and he was waiting in the little booth. He had the winner of the race. He had like the junior world champion or something. And because, you know, you're not expecting to go for a test straight after racing, he'd already done his wee. He'd had his post-race wee, so he had to sit in this place for about 2 hours until he had like enough to give the tester. Meanwhile, we're like, we've got to get a ferry back to the UK. We're like, can he just disappear? Like, is that a good enough excuse? Yeah. And of course, then he was worried as well because, like, the week before he'd had a cold, so he'd been, you know, he had a few Sudafeds. You know, could that be, you know, come up in his wee test? Is that going to be a violation? And luckily, everything was fine. But yeah, it was this whole thing of like, we need to get back. We were going to miss something.
There have been quite a few high-profile cases recently where, you know, quite big riders have been, you know, whether they're totally innocent or not, but they've been singled out and they've been, he or she missed that test or they missed this, and then all of a sudden the journalists get involved and they think they know it all, don't they? But do you think the culture is going to maybe change? Do you think, like, you know, go back 10 years, maybe 20 years, people didn't know dick all about nutrition, right, compared to now. Do you think that maybe in another 10, 20 years, there's going to be a lot more science behind that? You know, I'm hoping that they just come out and say, look, this massive long list of substances doesn't do anything. It's no longer banned, so feel free to take Sudafed or whatever you want. Like, and then actually, like, stuff that is really potent, if they know more about it, then, because do you feel like it gets in the way? Do you feel like it gets in the way of just people enjoying the sport? Or?
Yeah, you've always got to have those thresholds there. And yeah, if you want to enjoy the sport, of course, but then also you don't, you know, you want to feel good about enjoying it. You
don't want to feel like you're being cheated because somebody else is doing something.
I think the other thing as well is it's never that clear cut.
There's
so much nuance and so much like people operate in this grey area between black and white. Whereas like that's kind of where most people kind of are. Like we're aware of the rules. We're going to push them as far as we can, but we're not necessarily doing it wrong. And it's that kind of like grey area where most professional sport kind of operates. Let's be frank.
I think that people that are getting busted for PEDs, it's like diuretics. You know, it's in itself isn't anything, but then it's a sign that something else has happened.
It's all context.
And you know, and you go back into the idea that everyone thinks, oh, it's a doping test. They take a blood sample, they put it in a little machine, and it's a green light or a red light. That's not how it is.
It's not the year 2000 anymore. You know what I mean? We're not in the era of like US Postal. Like people are a lot smarter now.
Everything's a lot more subtle.
Everything's a lot more subtle and nuanced. And I think like as long as sport is professional, like you look at rugby, like for one sport, like that has a massive doping issue. Like, because let's face it, the bigger you are, the better you're going to be. So it's not just unique to like cycling or athletics or whatever. And there's always going to be like a grey area where professional teams and professional outfits are going to work. They're within the rules, but they're right up against that line. And that's unfortunately going to be the nature of where things are.
Should we just say every 20 years, just delete all the records and just assume that they were all doing at it and now we're clean?
Essentially, that's your job as a professional, is to play within the rules, but to, you know, push as far against that kind of boundary as possible. Yeah,
there's a little bit of a stigma attached to people who bend the rules, isn't there? It used to be like I keep bringing up Formula 1 because I used to watch it and now I don't so much. But that was always about they got this new thing. Oh, this cool new technology. Oh, next race is banned. But they didn't kind of go, well, we're deleting your last result because you did that. You tried something, you know, we decided that it was too much of a, you know, risk or whatever, or unfair to others, and we ban it, and then you just roll on and stuff like that. I think there's a bit more friendly competition involved.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be like opinions.
Yeah.
Isn't there?
Yeah.
Which partly makes sport fun, but ultimately we have a set of rules by which we are all bound. Rules are there so we can have fun, and these are the rules that have been laid out by like a regional governing body, a world governing body, whatever it is. And ultimately there's always going to be people that will break rules or nudge right up against them, because that's what rules generally kind of create. Think about school, you know. But if there was a complete free-for-all, then how would you, like, it would just be chaos.
Very fun to watch though.
Yeah, think of bike design, track bikes. Over the last few years, people have pushed it, and now they've relaxed the rules. Yeah. Now look what we have.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Thinking about that new look.
It might be fast.
Yeah.
But
the thing with the leaf handlebars.
Let's just go back to where we were a couple of years ago.
Where things actually look like bikes.
Yeah.
Hope have got a lot to answer for.
Yeah. But now all these bikes looking like
cool.
All these bikes looking like the Hope bike.
Yeah.
The latest bike now.
I feel like it's flavour of the month, isn't it? There's always been that kind of like, this is more aerodynamic. We've proved it in the wind tunnel. Look at our single A4 sheet of white paper, and then everybody does it, and then a couple of years later, also, whatever happened to that thing? It's like, we've
got some
changed it now. Now it's a different. Yeah.
At the Worlds, was it the Kieran, the world champion, won on an older bike without all the fancy bits. Yeah. Obviously, Lotte Kopecky won on the SL7, not the newer bike.
Oh, wasn't the second place?
SLA. Yeah.
That's fun.
That's great marketing. That's fantastic.
But just going off on a other tangent, just the Formula One just reminded me of e-bikes. I didn't realise there was an e-bike, mountain bike race category. Yep. I was like, what? This is
they
crazy.
Want to sell e-bikes, right? That's why they do it. It's like.
But just going back to Formula One, I was like, I kind of started watching it. Just, well, maybe there'll be like an e-bike fire, you know, maybe like talking about dangerous racing again, you know, equipment just blowing up.
I wouldn't be surprised if at some point there's going to be a bike in one of the, you know, in the pits and whatever the. What do you call the mountain bike?
Yeah, pits.
Equivalent of pits, right? Something will catch fire.
It would just like
whether it's because somebody sparked up a cigarette and shut off the battery, whatever. But and everyone will then say, "Oh, it's dangerous." They're all like this. Like, no, it just something happened. It was a freak thing. It's very unlikely to happen. Most of the time, you're keeping an eye on it. But and then like how easy is it? We know how easy it is to, up the power on a motor and not be found out, and then there's going to be that issue where people are starting to push things.
Yeah,
I don't know. Bunch of cynics, really, aren't we?
Yeah. Don't know what you're talking about.
Enough about butts.
Cheers for having me on.
Yeah, no,
thanks
for coming.
Thanks for sharing your World Championship experience.
Yeah, and I'll definitely keep you updated how it goes.
I'm really interested to see what happens at the to the Olympics. And
so the position we're at now, I'm going to hopefully. Yeah, I'm going to coach these riders a little bit, get them ready for Paris. Yeah. But then whether or not it actually happens as well, that's
another thing.
That's the other thing, because half the issue for some of the Kenyan riders coming over was visas.
Oh, right, of course, yeah.
So it was all very, very last minute.
Right.
And we don't want to get in the situation, obviously.
And there was a big, there was something, what was...
the Eritrean riders.
Yeah, that was
similar. It just did seem to be a bit of a theme. Any African riders coming over for Glasgow, they hadn't been to the UK before.
Right. And that's the thing, isn't it? That's the flag, and then somebody's in an office and have to box tick.
But hopefully, the Olympics and the Paralympics.
Yeah. Is there a way that we can follow these guys?
Yeah,
on social media or anything like
that? They are on Instagram.
Awesome.
I can put it in the show notes.
We'll put it in the show notes. We'll put it in the.
We now have show notes.
Oh, we do.
That's nice.
Yeah, probably.
Figure
it out.
We do now.
But yeah, no, that would be really cool to see. And yeah, cool. Good luck.
Thanks, Matt.
Cheers.
Thank you.
A rainbow jersey at 90. I could wear it round the hospice. You can learn more about Matt's coaching at saddleupcycling.co.uk. And as always, follow us on Instagram at SoftIssuesPod. And be sure to tune in next time, because Way, Matt and Lee will be sitting down with the one and only Jenny Gwizdowski, author of How to Build a Bike, founder of the world-famous London Bike Kitchen, and my other half. That's why I'm not allowed in the room. Join us next time. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon.